Hey guys, welcome back again to this week, and this week we're going to talk all about photography. Suppliers are a huge part of your wedding day. Everything from your venue to your dress, your hair and makeup, your flowers, your food, your evening entertainment is all really important in how your overall day goes, how things flow and what things look like. But I always consider that your photographer is one of the most important suppliers. Not only are you going to be with them throughout the whole day, so you've got to know you get on with them, you like them as a person, and they make you feel really comfortable. But equally, they're in charge of the whole day and how it runs. Do they get their photos done in a really quick, timely manner? Can they organise guests for you, or are you going to have to be running around sorting everything out? Are they going to make your day fun? Are they going to engage with your guests throughout the day? And equally, what are the photos going to look like afterwards? They are the one thing that lasts with you after your wedding, the one thing you're going to look back on time and time again and relive those memories day after day, year after year. So when it comes to photographers, it is so important that you're looking for the right type of people, the ones that suit you and the ones whose style you love as well. So there's a lot that goes into it when looking for photography. So as I always do, today I'm going to break it down a little bit, make it a little bit easier. Look at what you should be looking for in a photographer, how you narrow down that list, what questions you should be asking them, and generally what feels you should be getting in order to book and feel really positive about your choice. But first, of course, we've probably met before, but if we haven't, my name's Beth and I'm a professional planner here in the UK, and this little channel is my wedding world, where each week I get to share hints, tips, stories and secrets into the wedding industry and just make sure that your whole planning journey is way easier, less stressful and just so much more enjoyable. So we'll get straight with it today, and here's all my tips on everything photography to help you find that perfect supplier for you. So you've started your hunt for suppliers, and photography is probably pretty high up the list. It is for most people, and it's one of the suppliers that I suggest you book in right at the beginning. Great photographers get booked up a year to 18 months in advance, so as much time as you can give yourself in this area is really highly recommended. When you start looking for photographers, you'll probably realise there is an awful lot of them. And even if you kind of niche it down into your area and just look at the photographers that are local to your venue, you're probably seeing that there's still quite a number of them to decide from. And there are so many different types as well. There's documentary photographers who are just more there and documenting the day throughout it and not really getting too involved. Candid photographers who will kind of be a bit more closer, but it's catching things on the fly as they happen. And you'll also get more traditional people who like to do lots of stage photos, lots of formal photos, and of course photographers that do a bit of both and everything in between. So there's a lot to look at and a lot to think about when it comes to photography. But looking at the style of photo is just one element of it. You also need to know that you get on with these photographers, you feel comfortable with them, and you know that you're going to put the trust in them on the day to do a fantastic job for you. And then the third side of it is obviously looking at the price, looking at what you can afford and what's out there and what's offered for that price, and then drilling down into those packages, what's actually offered by each photographer for that price. Some will do digital only packages, so they're there throughout the whole day, they take all the photos, but you just get them in a digital format, whether this is downloading them from an online area or you get a USB sent to you. Some photographers will be more print based, so you'll get a certain amount of prints included, and there's often options to include albums as well. And then going even further, some photographers will offer half days, some full days, some stay on in the evening for a little bit extra, and some will even include an engagement shoot or have it as an optional extra as well. So when you're looking at photographers, you really want to know that you love their style, you like them as a person, and you're going to get on with them. And equally, what you're paying for the service is what you expected. If you want an album, make sure you know the price of it before you go too far with that photographer, and actually make sure it's an option with them as well. But when it comes to narrowing them down, you really need to look at all these elements and then just start stalking them. You want to look at their social media, you want to look at their websites, you want to ask your friends and family that have got married who they use, who they recommend. Speak to your other suppliers, let them tell you who they recommend, who they've worked with in the past. That can often be a really good indicator. And also speak to your venue. If that photographer comes recommended with the venue or that they've shot there a lot of times, it makes it really easy for you to talk to your photographer about the kind of things you'd like, and equally you can get to see images of things they've already shot at your venue. Now, it doesn't always matter, and to be honest, it doesn't matter at all if your photographer hasn't shot at your venue. Most wedding photographers will be so used to going about and just adapting to different venues, but it can be a great place to start if you're feeling really overwhelmed by the huge amount of photographers that are out there and just not knowing where to start. So speak to your venue, speak to suppliers, speak to friends and family, and see who comes recommended. Once you've kind of found a few that you really, really like, it's now time to start contacting them and having conversation. And you'll want a small handful of people to contact directly just to see how they respond and how they react to you and how you feel about how they respond as well. So you'll want to send a first initial email, and at this point you just really want to inquire, are they available on your date? Do they do the package that you want? And are they in the right price range for you? Once you've had this confirmed, pay attention to how quickly they respond, as a quick response is always a great indication that they're kind of on the ball and they're going to get back to you in the future if you've got any inquiries. In this second email, you'll want to start asking more questions more specific to your wedding date. You already know they're available and you can afford them, so you want to get more into their style, what they do in the day, and I'm going to give you a couple of questions that are great to start asking at this point. But I would always advise, if possible, try and get a video call with them or meet up in person to go more in depth into these questions, as you really want to know that you click with them as a person. Over email can be great, and people can say anything on email, but actually sitting down in front of them and knowing that they make you comfortable and are having a great conversation with you is a good starting point and the best way to work out whether they're for you. Okay, so you're either meeting up with them or you're having a video call. What kind of questions should you be asking your photographer? And today I'm going to run you through 13 different questions that I see as really common ones to ask and things that you should know about before you actually book and confirm that you are going to go ahead with that supplier. Question number 1, have you shot my venue before? As I said, it isn't important that they have to, it's just great to know if they have and if you can see examples of what they've shot. Aside of this, I would always say that you need to see a full album of a photographer before you book them, as it can be a great indication of the different style they shoot throughout the day and how they tend to work, and of course that you're happy with what they offer in a full album, what they look like. When you see these images online, they're often highlights of the day, so it's really good to see a full album and what they can offer in those more personal shots. Number 2, what's your style and how do you shoot on the day? This is just great to find out what they tend to do. Do they come in and shoot you getting ready? How do they work when it comes to the ceremony and switching between you and your partner if that's something that you're going to have to do? How do they run the group shots? How do they tend to work it? Do they take control of the day? Do they organise for you? Or are they quite in the background, not really confident in doing all of that and let you sort it out? You'll want to know these things, as if you're looking for a photographer that kind of takes over for the day and organises everything for you, this will be a great indication of that's what they offer, and equally how their style works throughout the rest of the day. So are they candid, more documentary, or are they going to want a lot of formal shots on the day? Number 3 kind of leads on from that, and it was a little subsection of the last question, but how they organise the formal shots is a really good conversation to have. I've worked with photographers who are at both ends of it. Some photographers who really do not like to organise anyone and are really shy in the background, and other photographers that are really confident and loud and almost bossy when it comes to sorting out the photos. Now, sometimes that's a really good thing because it means people are going to get organised nice and quickly and everything's going to happen fast, so you can move on to food, drinks and all that side of it. But if you don't really want a photographer that's going to be talking a lot on the day and in the front of all your guests, then you may want more of a background shy photographer, and finding out how they do these group shots is a really good indication of how that will work on the day. Question number 4, what will you need to give your photographer in advance? These questions are in absolutely no particular order, by the way, they're as they came out of my brain. So what will your photographer want from you in advance? Will they work with you to create a shot list? Will they want some sort of mood board and examples of photos? It's really good to know how they usually work so you can prepare that in advance. If you don't ask them and they don't tell you, it could be 2 weeks before the wedding, they contact you asking for some example photos and a shot list, and you're like, whoa, we didn't even know and we didn't expect this, and then you're kind of scrambling around to create these things. So ask them what they'll want in advance, they can give you some details and you can be nice and organised ahead of time. Number 5, what kind of hours does the package cover? A lot of photographers will offer packages that just say full day, and some then offer a half day. And if you're going for either of these packages, you kind of need to know when that starts and finishes. Some photographers, a full day may only include from just before the ceremony to end of speeches or just at first dance. Other photographers will include bridal prep from first thing in the morning, and this could be like 8-9 o'clock in the morning through to the evening party, you know, first dance and capture a few of the evening photos. So if you're comparing prices, you kind of want to know what the package includes and that you're not just going for a cheaper full day package and it actually just means you're getting less hours for the day, but the coverage of bridal prep and some dancing shots in the evening was really important to you. So ask this question and know exactly what you're paying for. Number 6 on the list, another really random one to throw in amongst all the other questions. Do they require a hot meal on the day? This will be a question you want to ask a number of your suppliers, especially the ones that are going to be there throughout the whole day. It's quite often written into contracts. Not a deal breaker, I'm sure, not a big thing, but it's great to know and have this noted down. So when it comes to your caterers asking you who needs a meal on the day out of your supplier team, you've already confirmed that your photographer will need one and you can do that without having to go back and ask them. Number 7 on the list is about experience. How long have they been photographing weddings? How many do they do a year? How many weddings have they done? It's just really good to know your photographer's background, and if they've done loads of weddings, you kind of know that there's a process they've got. You don't have to worry about things too much. They'll be asking you questions because they need to know certain things, and you can feel quite confident in knowing that they've got this experience, they've done loads of weddings, and you can see lots of full example albums that they've done. That being said, it's not the deal breaker if they've never photographed a wedding. There can be so many kind of price benefits when it comes to your budget if you go for a less experienced photographer. It's just nice to know what their experience level is, and if they're not as experienced, you may want to work with them a bit longer, giving them more details, helping them out more, knowing that photos may take slightly longer if they're not that experienced in taking all these photos. It's just basic things to be prepared and know what to expect, rather than having an experienced one which you will pay more for, but they will know certain things and they will get things done quicker on the day. Number 8, are they insured? Basic question. You should know that all your suppliers are insured, and every supplier for your wedding day should carry their own insurance and be quite happy to show that to you. A side note of this, when it comes to insurance as well, I always suggest that clients ask, what happens if your photographer is ill on the day? Do they have backups? How does it work? Do they have lots of people they can call on? That sort of thing. It's just nice to know that your photographer has a confident backup plan, and hopefully a backup plan that they never have to use. Number 9, a basic administration question. How does payment work? What is the deposit? When do you need it by? Is there any interim payments? When will you need final payments? That sort of thing. If it's quite an expensive kind of purchase for you with that supplier, do they offer any payment plans? You just want to know how it works. Cash on night, payment in advance, back transfer, all that sort of thing. Number 10 on the list, you want to know when you're actually going to get your beautiful photographs of your wedding day. Every photographer works slightly different. Some will give you some highlights photos within 24 hours, 48 hours of your wedding or the first week. Others will wait until they've done your full kind of album and release it. It could be anything 6 to 8 weeks after your wedding. Some are slightly longer, some are slightly shorter, but you want to know what to expect. In my experience, a lot of couples go into this expecting to have their photos back within a week or two, and quite often, especially in the height of wedding season, that just doesn't happen. Photographers are working, you know, maybe 2 or 3 weddings a weekend. They can't possibly get all those photos edited, especially when, you know, you're talking about 800 photos sometimes. So make sure you find out what the lead time is, when you're going to get your photos, so you don't get your heart set on having them within 2 weeks and wonder where they are. Number 11, getting to the end now, is just about extra costs. So your photographer may be booked to do from bridal prep through to first dance. On the night, you're kind of having fun, there's new people there and you want to get a few extra photographs, or maybe you're doing fireworks or a sparkler exit, something like that. And it's really important to you that your photographer stays on and does that, but you kind of forgot to sort that out in advance. So having an idea of what they would cost if they stayed on for a few extra hours is a great thing to have as a backup plan, and you know if you're asking them to do that, it's not going to suddenly come as a huge shock. Some photographers you may find don't charge any extra for staying on. They've booked out for the day for you. That is their package, regardless of how many hours they do. Other photographers do have an hourly charge if you do want their services a little bit later. So again, ask the question and you know. Number 12 on the list, if you are in a position, once you've booked them, this question is more for that kind of stage and you're still feeling a bit overwhelmed by the amount of suppliers you've got to choose, a photographer is often there throughout an entire wedding day and knows a lot of suppliers. So if you are searching for the perfect florist or you need a videographer and they don't offer that service in-house, you can ask them the questions, are there any other suppliers you recommend in videography, in floristry, in makeup and hair, all suppliers that your photographers come into contact with at every single wedding. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, they can be a great source of knowledge and great people to ask. And last question on the list, really basic one, ask your photographer, is there anything else that I should be asking or anything that I need to know? Leave it open, see what they have to say, and especially when they're an experienced photographer, they may come back to you with a few areas that you should know about or things that they want you to know. So that is everything, a really basic overview of the kind of things you should be asking your photographer, the kind of areas you should be looking into, and a few ideas to help you pin down and find that perfect supplier. As always, if you've loved this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe if you haven't done so already. We are so near to the end of the year now and it has been so much fun putting all these videos together this year, and I really hope it's helped you in your wedding planning journey. I will leave it there. Have a wonderful week or evening, day, whatever you're doing, and I will catch you on another video very, very soon. Bye guys!